Hey guys, I'm Colwen. I'm gonna try and make this short and sweet. I'm I did some Let's React videos to a thing called Mr. Samuel's Teatime Stories. Very interesting stuff. I'm gonna put this at the beginning of each of those, and then I'll do a supercut later on. So whatever's going on, either it's gonna be my blind reaction and I'm gonna be really super stoned, or right now I'm gonna do a proper response review. I'm gonna watch the episode and then talk about it, and all right. All right. So what's nice about something like Samuel's Tea Party is that it's open to interpretation. They present you this strange environment with the walls all twisted and bent and warped around. It's very Lovecraftian. It's very altered reality. And to me, the first episode can be about a lot of things. It's mainly about just mental illness and being disconnected from reality. Um, in the end, the entire thing is about being senile and about growing old and dying, but a lot of things that they're referencing and talking about can be applied to autism. How, I feel disconnected from reality, how I get intrusive thoughts sometimes, and I'll hear random weird noises that'll be distracting. Like in Samuel's Tea Party, as the characters are interacting, you hear these weird sounds off to the side, like somebody knocking on the door, or wind chimes, or a door closing randomly, and like just random inputs, kind of. And Mr. Samuel himself, he seems like a really cool, relaxed dude, but yeah, he's distracted. He's got issues. And I got there's Mr. Sun, the weird little puppet thing, and she built her home in his bones, and I think that kind of applies to putting a lot of importance on somebody. You rely on that person a lot as support. Like I relied on my mother a lot as support, and after she died, I wasn't very functional for a very long time. I was barely functional. I can't remember her name right now. I'm gonna call her Clock Lady. She's very lovely. That whole clock face thing, that's some interesting puppetry going on there. And at the end of the first episode, they tell a riddle. What's the difference between a house and a prison? He forgets the punchline. Something to do with windows. Growing up, I felt in a lot of ways my home was a prison because I wasn't allowed to be myself. I had the older brother that would beat on me and abuse me in all kinds of ways, and I wasn't allowed to defend myself because if I did, I'd get yelled at or just beat on worse. And like when you're living in an oppressive, stressful environment, it's not too dissimilar from prison, except for in the case of a child, they never did anything wrong other than just being born, and it's really, really fucked up when that shit happens. Home, doesn't matter where your home is nowhere because everywhere is hell. That can apply very much to somebody growing up with mental illnesses, whether it be, autism, bipolar, ADHD. I don't know how young schizophrenia can kick in, or other things, but like even an abused person, they're going through, I mean, everywhere is hell in a lot of ways, and then hell gets into your brain, and you get all the intrusive thoughts. Hey, this motherfucker, hey, that motherfucker. This time that this person did this, that, or the other to me, and it just. There's a lot of interesting subjects in this show, and you really should watch it on your own. There's a lot to take away from it. Let me move on to episode 2, and I'll watch that and then come back with another response to that. Alright, thank you guys. I remembered more about the first episode that I want to talk about. And he got the snail mail, and the letter was about making the horror stop, making the horror stop. And yeah, that was something I always wanted growing up, just for everything to stop. Um, there was it's yeah, they cram a lot of interesting concepts into one thing. I'm in the middle of the second episode right now, and he was talking about the moon getting closer and like trauma getting closer. And in the second episode, they changed the background. Instead of it being like relatively enclosed, there's like a warp spinny thing in the bottom of the floor, and the walls are spread out. And first episode, he talks about yelling at the clocks because the clocks are silly sometimes. And yeah, that's something that happens. Time gets warped and distorted. It's been getting that way for me lately. Actually, I started some anti-anxiety medication, and I got some nasal medication, and I'm breathing better and I'm sleeping better. But like time is getting weird for me, and I'm having to pay more attention to it more and more. And yeah. Make the horror stop. Make the horror stop. I'm trying to get my horrors to stop. I really am. I'm being all disconnected and disjointed, just like Mr. Samuel is. Um, Home isn't even in your mother's bed. I don't ever remember spending much time in my mother's bed, but I do remember spending a lot of time just sitting with my mom and being around my mom. So, for me, home isn't even when I was with my mother, I guess. And now they're talking about time, and Mr. Sun says time is a straight line and that smells like banana bread. And Mr. Snail says time smells like my mother's disappointment. I'm gonna go with the Time Lord idea of time. Time is a wibbly wobbly mass of timey wiminess. And some things are fixed and some things aren't. Let's keep watching. There's a lot of contradiction in this series, and in the end of the first episode, Mr. Samuel gives advice about what to do if you're ever confused, and he says, make your bed every single day, because it's important. It really isn't. And if anything, you should leave your bed unmade so that your sheets can dry out, and you're not baking, soil and sweat into your sheets. But as you can see behind me, I think my bed's actually made, isn't it? Yeah, my bed isn't made. That's my jacket on top of the bed there. Time is shaped like a labyrinth or a prison with vertical bars, and either way there's no escape. And yeah, and then the camera starts shaking around and getting all crazy and swirly, and that kind of reminds me of when I'm in an anger rage and I'm just pissed off and yelling and screaming. That's why I was confused about books in a box. There's probably books in that box right there. Damn. Non sequitur achieved. Let's keep watching. Beginning of the second episode, they're talking about time, and it's oh, you're here again, and all right. So continuing on with my talking about Mr. Samuel's Teatime Stories, the second episode is It's Today Again. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but now I'm watching part 3, A Funeral is a Party, where the guest of honor isn't there. And it starts off, with the I didn't expect you here again. And this again plays into the idea that I think the whole thing is about depression and mental illness, because it really does, when a person has a bad mental illness breakdown, they never expect to go back to the dark place again, but they do anyways, and that's like they're almost always there. I really enjoy how they introduce the title card of each episode. It's got the hand moving the letters around on the magnet board, and it spells out. It's a unique way of doing it. I like that. They mentioned it in episode 3 at the beginning. Uh, Isn't it strange? There's a hole in the floor, and as episode 3 starts off, they pan out, and the room is even more torn apart and falling apart and breaking down and just spinning out of control, like somebody with mental illness feels like life is spinning out of control sometimes. And it's just this gloomy hole that you get stuck in, and you don't want to be there, but there's a comfort behind it. There's a familiarity behind it, and that's why they keep saying, "Welcome back home to the insanity. Welcome back home to the delirium." It's where you're used to. It's they're talking about how it feels like they can't leave the depression, they can't leave the mental illness, and Mr. Samuel's just sitting off in the corner, kind of just listening and like agreeing. He understands what they're talking about. It's like Gloomy Madeline is her name. The clock lady, her name is Gloomy Madeline. They're different aspects of his mind trying to cope and process with things. She's singing the song about the sunlight is different, and I don't know really how to explain that. But yeah, it's like sensory overload and stuff. Things are too real, too overpowering, just overwhelming. I gotta wear sunglasses outside and around bright lights, and the only reason this isn't bothering me right now is because I'm focusing down on here, and this is all kind of shaded over here. But if I stare up at it too long, or even for a moment, but that's real photons light. That's I don't know. Sounds sometimes overwhelm me, and that's what it makes me think of. Mr. Samuel said Miss Gloomy Madeline isn't a very good clock, but she says she's a perfectly okay clock. I just want to mention that. I like Madeline. She's nice. I find her oddly attractive. That's probably the motherly aspect. That's probably her personality, not so much. I don't know. I'm weird. I gotta say the cinematography and the framing and the acting. Like, we got Samuel here getting the letter, and Madeline's kind of off in the corner, and he's not looking right at the camera. These dudes, they need to make more movies. They need to make more stuff. I'm gonna have to look to see if there's any more stuff by these guys. I just watched the part where they sing "The Funeral's a Party," and I want to know more about Dr. Delight. I want to know what's going on with that character. I miss my mom. I never really got to say goodbye to her. I think one of the last things I said to her was, "I'll talk to you later," which Dad says that that's a positive thing. I wish I could have said I love you, and I wish I could have talked to her about more stuff. Thank you for stopping by, like they say in the song. And really, you should say, talk to your family more often before this part really, really hits me. Seriously, these puppets, man. Gloomy Madeline, the design is really good on the puppets. The little star hand dude, especially on the close-ups, he looks like there is this little bit of uncanny valley with these little puppet creatures, because you can tell with the snail, it's somebody's fingers up in the eyes, and they're working the mouth, and they're wiggling around and stuff. But I don't know, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
It's been a lovely time having you here.
I look at these dudes.
Thank you.
Look at these characters. These are insane.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
And here's one of the outros. I'm just gonna be quiet and like comment over it a little bit. A clock is not a prison. Yeah, I should be fine having that little blip, way in the middle, right? Nobody's gonna. Time almost is a prison sometimes. Oh, hold on. See, now this is where we really get into the idea of dementia.
It's you. After all this time, it's still you. You know there
Now
are
look
many
how
things
destroyed and messed up it is. Mr. Samuel's mindscape has become like a black void. The only thing left is the window that more than likely this old guy is sitting next to in a retirement home just trying to stare out the window, but he's so mind is so lost that all he sees is the frame anymore, and then he's just falling into a black hole of despair. So the last episode, yeah, it talks about wanting to leave and go outside, but where is outside? And they get into a lot of circular arguments that really does kind of remind me of the circular arguments I'd have growing up about wanting to not be harassed and abused, but apparently it was my fault because I attracted negative attention or some other bullshit, and like it just almost the crazy making. I'm gonna put links down below to Mr. Samuel's Tea Time Stories for good children and confused adults. It's a very good watch. Go watch it on your own. Check out my response to it, and give this guy attention. Give this guy likes, and subscribe to his page, and yeah. All right, I'm Colwen. This is me talking about Mr. Samuel's Tea Time Stories. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.